Chris, where did we send Mark? To the bedroom?
Go make copies or something. He's just walking in the,
I will wait. Careful about letting people in.
Is Lisa?
I'm not sure. All right, we'll get started. Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen together. To commence last Tuesday, May 20th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Year 2025. This is a hybrid public meeting. We have people online, we have people in the audience. As always, we would ask that you raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment, give us your name and address. It does say here each speaker has a maximum of 2 minutes upon recognition. It's my discretion if you can go longer because you have something interesting for me to hear. Otherwise, it'll probably be 2 minutes. And then if you'd like, you could speak again. Okay? And I ask again, respectful both ways. And also we'll try and do better because one time 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was at home. I had to Zoom in and I had my hand waving and nobody ever called on me. So maybe that's on purpose. So if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Any additions, any concerns, comments?
Who's in this conference?
We don't know. Hi.
We don't know.
Whoever's saying hi, you got us once. We're not, just put your full name in, please, and we'll let you in the meeting. So no additions? All those in favor of approval? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes from May 6th, 2025.
There's one typo I find it.
Found the typo, but you lost it?
Yeah, I know exactly. It says first instead of first, when it refers to you by title. I lost it, looked at it earlier today and.
All right, people can call me whatever they want. Not a big deal. Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Audience of citizens. So you found it? Next time. Audience of citizens. Anybody that's not on the agenda? Anybody in the chat? Any hands?
I'm sorry, just for clarification, the audience of citizens is for anything that's not on the agenda?
Yeah, you can make a statement if you like. Even if it's on the agenda, you can make a statement. I'm not gonna, it will just say thank you for your statement. So.
So at what point do we hear the discussion?
Well, with Robert's rules, if I feel free to call on you, but I think I've been pretty fair with it. So I think during the topic of what you're interested in, if your hand goes up, you got a pretty good shot of being called on.
Okay.
Most people. Okay, nobody in the chat? Thank you. Old business. Last week, we asked for people to join us in the creation of a 250th committee. We had some wording that we didn't like, we brought it back. And I've read it, looks pretty good to me. So I move to approve the resolution to establish the America 250th Columbia, Connecticut Committee. So the committee shall consist of at least 6 members. The terms for the life of the committee, invited members will include the general public and members of boards and commissions and other places, town historian, historical society, public school, library, that type of thing. So that was kind of the, we didn't want to say they had to be on it, we're inviting them to be a part of it. Any comments? Yes, ma'am,
From advance, One Beach Road, is there a chair
there will be,
they would notify, I mean, they could talk to?
yes. The first one who spoke tonight got the chair position. I just tell them, no.
50 years, so I'm only here half a year.
We are gonna find a chair. And then they can report or talk to them about helping out. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. New business. I move to approve the tax collector's suspense list as presented totaling $16,023. What?
And 2 cents.
And 2 cents. Those are my 2 cents. Every year she gives us an updated suspense list of everybody, taxpayers who have moved away, we can't find them. It costs more to find them than they owe us, and, we really kind of stopped going after them. So, that's the motion right there. I do want to say that last year, around this time, maybe a little bit after, we actually voted to authorize a tax company to go after people on the suspended list, okay? And she's getting me a number, because they've actually collected money. It's, I think, already 36,000. They've already gotten $36,000, correct?
Yeah, it's right on the net, they collected 36,321.
Of which Columbia gets 85% of it. It's a great deal, so,
Oh, no, that's what we're getting back, 36, they'll pack on their fee on top of that. To the,
that's even better. And so it was a good, so, the motion is to approve the tax collector's suspense list, totaling $16,023.02. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Opposed, thank you. I move to approve the updated highway maintainer job description as presented. Why do we have to do this?
so the foreman and public works director went through our old job description, which is in the back, and they felt it wasn't up to date with what's really involved and expected of a public works maintainer. So they made modifications, which is the first one in the packet. The second one was what it was. So it just more accurately reflects what the job requirement is.
So we're gonna give us a minute to look at it, right?
Yes, sir.
This has the blessing of Kyle, the foreman, and also our director.
Yes,
They wrote it.
yes.
Cameraman, could you do me a favor and shut those doors? Yeah. Music is messing. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. This is the old version.
Yes.
Okay. I move to approve the memorandum of agreement for DEMHS. The Department of Homeland Security.
Yes.
Department of Homeland Security, Region 4 Homeland Security Grant Program. This is something we apply for every year. We get it. Really kind of keep. I get texts all the time when storms are coming or there's some activity that we should know about. Anything else I should? So. Any questions?
Oh, everything's dated fiscal year 24, is this because it's in arrears?
No, this is what they sent. We have to change it out to the correct year, right? Yeah, I won't sign this one. They'll get me a clean copy. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, it might always be one. We're approving last year's for this year or something.
Yes, they are, I think they are behind. They're in a.
No, that couldn't be anything.
There's all 25 work through it.
We'll make sure whatever you
Except
send
the last page refers to three.
That was an amendment. Right.
Okay, let's figure it out.
It might be the 2024 program supports 2025.
Okay, good point though. It might be's and maybe's and could be's and I'm not doing it.
Well, it's good for 2024 expenditures.
What things we've already spent money on?
That,
So do they assess what we get based on what we spent last year? Not really,
No, we only get like,
Not that much.
all right, so instead of looking poorly here for an hour, I'm just going to,
hold on.
Well,
cancel.
can you make a motion to approve the Homeland Security Grant Program with the proper paperwork from the state that is correct? I think this is probably correct. This is the most baffling grant program that we deal with. It is unbelievably archaic and painful. You can't believe it. Jen and I, we even talked to the Homeland Security Department, and they go, you're not authorized, we can't talk to you. It has to be Stephen.
Oh, I have a clearance.
You did.
All right, I'm going to correct my motion. What am I saying? I move to approve the memorandum of agreement for the Department of Homeland Security Region 4 Homeland Security Grant Program. When the proper paperwork arrives, I mean, just to kind of.
Just don't say a date. This is probably the correct one. Okay.
This looks like it's just an amendment to last year.
It always is,
It's,
but usually Bev's here tells us what to do, because it's money. It's like $5,000-6,000.
right.
Is there a time
That's what I think.
constraint on it?
It's actually not due to September.
Then just
Can I
leave it.
stop? I don't feel comfortable.
Now, we could do it next time, get more information.
You're gonna have to discuss it, it's fine. Columbia Lake. Approval of a new mooring and replacement of a mooring for Frank and Nancy Gifford at 16 Ardoni Road, Columbia. before I see yourself here, Mary, you're here, it says you were involved in this, it's a proposal for a new and replacement.
Correct.
You got a new total replacement, so it's not really, what is it?
Area rental 34 Downey. The permit was for two moorings. Mooring one is a replacement. When they purchased the property recently, it came with a raft. They have done several dives and cannot find the mooring. So they are replacing mooring one. Mooring two is a second mooring 40 feet from the other abutting neighbor's property, well within their rights of 25 feet from the property. And that will be for safety.
And they have enough frontage to handle an existing dock plus two more.
Correct. They have 169 feet, 100 feet are required.
And mooring number one will be placed within, no more than 75 feet out.
It would be placed 60 feet out. They would be allowed 100 feet. They wanted 60 feet.
But, okay, but we actually asked moorings to be in because of the swing of the line in the craft, right?
Correct.
75
10 feet, so it'll go only 70 feet.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I used to cut fixes on big ships, you know, currents do allow it. Great. Okay, LMAC, approve this. So I move to approve the application for new mooring and replacement of one mooring for six. I move to approve the application for a new mooring and the replacement of another mooring, an existing mooring for 16 Erdoney Road on the recommendation set forth by LMAC. Any discussion?
So you did say LMAC did approve?
Yes.
The free, okay, 'cause I didn't see you sign off.
It's on the first page, subcommittee recommended LMAC. Mary looked at it, it's fine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. Review and discussion of policy for gate inspection procedure and ordinance regarding section 190-30 launch of watercraft in Columbia Lake. I actually read this. I had a question on one of these. This is, so this is final and final. What is
So
this?
this is the actual ordinance.
Yep.
And these are the regulations, there are two different things. So we're talking about regulations first.
Right.
Referencing that.
190-26 required motor boat inspections at the town launch. Number, paragraph 6. Horsepower inspection. Prior to the launch.
Did he jump to the ordinance?
What?
Or is this regulation?
What is this?
That's, we're doing the ordinance next.
Okay.
So there's two things we're talking about, now, regulations and then the ordinance.
These are regulated.
Yes.
Anybody have any concerns about this? Yes, sir.
Jeff Morrison, 14 Columbia Lake. So after reviewing some of the language in the regulations, my concern is basically not necessarily with the boat launch, but with with private property launching of non-motorized watercraft. Okay, in a previous board of selectmen meeting, I identified 84 town residents that live around the lake with a year-round residency. And there's another 76 properties that are transient, whether they're rentals or they're owned by trusts with multiple different families with percentages, so there's not really an established residence. The concern here is when looking at the off-hours access folks that actually utilized it last year, there's only 24 boats that were residents that don't live on the lake. And I believe these regulations are to strengthen the inspection procedure, but I don't see any strengthening with the lake residents. And it's cited within the regulation that by the mere fact that they're a property owner, they're gonna be what they're considered a qualified inspector under a good faith. But every other, whether it be a motorized or a non-motorized boat that is gonna go into the lake via the town ramp must be inspected by some sort of town employee that is trained. My concern is what type of education would this ordinance implore the town and LMAC to put out to their property residents and any visitors that would come in with non-motorized watercraft from other bodies of water? And what type of training is gonna be done to prevent invasive species from being introduced? Just on the numbers alone that I presented statistically, lakefront property owners with their visitors are more of a hazard to the lake and invasive species than town residents that are looking for access to the boat ramp when they're being inspected by trained qualified personnel.
Okay. So I served in a lot of different capacities in my life, okay? And I will tell you, being very honest, I'm not an expert in anything. Okay, I'm not. Except for one thing. If you've thought long and hard enough to present this to this board, tell me what you think we ought to do.
I've been spending the last 2.5 months collecting my data and trying to establish that there's an issue here. And if I'm one resident in this town that can identify this issue, but we have a board member of 11 that I've had conversations with this about, and there's been times during the LMAC meetings that I've been shut down that we're not talking about it because it's not on the agenda. Specifically, the last board, I went to discuss this. Bob Howell told me that I couldn't talk about it.
Okay, Mr.
Okay,
I'm
and I would
asking you,
love to come with a solution, but I need some more time to digest this, considering that I've only been working on this for the last couple of months.
Is this in the regulations or the?
this is on
We're
the,
talking about the regulations right now. I have other stuff that will relate to the ordinance.
Page 4, item D is your,
yes, sir.
they say.
I appreciate what was just said. All residents around the lake have to launch motorboats at the beach.
That's not what he's talking about.
Just like it, non-motorized watercraft are different. They're handled under paragraph B on page 3. And that has been strengthened to mandate inspection, require inspection by a town resident and so forth. It does speak to training, but it is not as specific as the outline training program for the beach, but that's not, the outline training program for the beach is not part of the regulations either. So the lake people will have a similar education program associated with that. In addition, to alleviate a large part of the concern, most boats that are launched, non-motorized watercraft around the shores of the lake don't go anywhere else.
Okay, I need to stop you right there, Mr. Beck, okay? Let me tell you, your argument, I understand it. But his argument, I understand also.
I do
that
as
if
well.
one kayak gets in there, cause somebody doesn't clean it and it's cut, maybe got chipped fiberglass and it's got some weeds hanging off and they just launched from some place that they don't know anything about it. The question should be from his, how are we going to get education and knowledge to the people who live everywhere in town, because they're lake people too. Let's be careful how we put it. Everybody in this town is a lake person potentially. Everybody should be educated if they're going to put a non-motorized craft on the water.
Don't
A
disagree.
tube, it doesn't matter. The question is, how can we best do that? Because your comment, sir, last 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, somebody's comment about the birds bringing it in. We'll never be 100%, but I understand your concern. We have to do better for anybody who wants to put anything on the lake. How can we do that? Am I correct in saying that? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
So
that's the
you're
first one.
saying it's right here. I wouldn't have read this if I didn't have an office right there. You know what I mean? If I wasn't asked to read it. So if I quiz anybody in town about any of this, I'm not even sure if those who own property abutting the lake would be 100% or know about this. So I understand, it's not a get you type of thing, it's a, how do we do better? Okay? You can finish, go ahead.
Okay. One thing that the,
Well, but you had 30 seconds left.
one thing the selectmen need to consider is when is this going to be effective?
And that's,
It is hard, well, it's hard maybe to put it into effect in mid-season, so there will be time for education.
well, I understand what you're saying, but education is forever ongoing, okay? Yes,
I'm Mary Rickle, 34 Redoni. In the same regulations that we have presented to the board for your review and approval to move forward. Under section D on page 4, for the sake of the lake inspection program for non-motorized watercraft launched from private properties. We are recommending with education, any town resident who launches any non-motorized boat other than at the town launch boat have an additional educational process similar to what we've done with the gatekeep program and sake of the lake stickers put on those kayaks, canoes, whatever, paddle boards, etc. So it is in there as part, if not all, of the solution.
okay, so. And it can happen at any time of the year, okay? We need to get a mail out piece. We need to get something that goes to every house.
Well, we use.
Okay,
So
you can name 100 of them.
Yeah.
We got, and still, you know, my wife says to me, how come nobody goes to the concerts? You don't advertise it. We put it in the Columbia Views, middle of the town. We do this, we got Touch My Gov, and still, not everybody will get it. But we have to do better, okay? So, LMAC, work with us. And let's get a piece, somehow has to go out, okay? And there's a volunteer back there, I'm sure he'd be happy to give his opinion on it. Yes, sir.
So just to piggyback on that, about getting the education out, I'm 100% for that. And for what we do electronically with websites, with the town notification, with Columbia News and stuff like that, that's great for town residents. Okay, my concern is that I've identified 43 properties.
Yep.
That
I
are
heard you.
on the lake.
Yep.
That are state residents, but not town residents.
Okay,
So how are they gonna get that?
okay, that's a great point.
Then there's an additional 13 properties that don't even live in the state of Connecticut.
Yep.
That they come up here whenever they wanna come up here. They land, they're here for a month, they become a qualified non-resident, whatever it is. My concern is that there's still going to be a significant exposure.
I understand.
And I would like to find a way and have discussion to be able to get those property owners on board.
We're gonna do a, for the sake of the lake, laminate piece, and we're gonna tack it to every door of the house on the lake.
We used to put it on docks.
Yeah, I see people chuckling back there, I'm serious, okay? You put it on the dock, you put it on the front door. You make sure if anybody rents their place out, it needs to be in the packet. Okay?
A
So we're
fair,
working together to make this all better, okay?
a fair number of those who have trust. And where I live, to my left is a trust and to my right is a trust. We know those people. We know where they live. A fair number of those are CLA members. If we cross-reference those 76, I bet we'll find a fair number in the CLA, educate through the CLA, Columbia Lake Association.
In addition to that, I'd like to make it where they have to post something on a dock or post it, okay?
Yeah.
Because I trust, those trusts, but I don't trust those people without a trust. I'm gonna get the paper that I trust they need to have. They can put that on the dock, but I'm not being funny, but I'm not being funny. He brought up a very valid point. Thank you. Yes.
Herman Dennis, 1 Beach Road. I don't know the statistics that the gentleman has, but I would venture to say that there's the majority of the people living on the lake don't take their boats or watercraft in all the other places. There's a big difference when you're coming, you don't live there, you're bringing in a boat, you're taking out a boat. If you're a fisherman, you probably go bass fishing somewhere else. You compete, you do those kinds of things. So that there is more turnover, and I'm not sure that those statistics really reflect the stability of the watercraft that are around the lake.
I understand
If
that.
I rent my house, I say to the people that rent my house, here's a kayak. Or you can use it or you can't use it, but it's not a kayak that I have taken to all these other places.
I understand what you're saying, I really do, and it's a valid point. However, there's other points that not everybody is like that. So we have to make sure, for the sake of the lake, that they are educated, whether they live here, they vacation here, they're a part of a trust here and just use it. And actually, I don't even know if people are supposed to bring their personal kayaks on, but yes, Mr. Beck.
There's no disagreement. I mean, LMAC doesn't want anybody to escape having education and inspection on this program too, so we welcome help from everybody. It needs to work and we need to have the inspections, and we will put together the training program as the same as we're doing the training have done the training program for the beach gate, and
Right.
we'll get it out.
And you can certainly, I mean, he's part of the Marine Patrol.
Right.
They see it all the
I'm
time.
happy to.
And include them,
Oh, yes.
okay?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You all set? Yes, sir.
Bob Powell, 696 Road. Just a point of clarification, at the last LMAC meeting, which was a special meeting specifically to talk about the card key access program. The reason he was told he was not allowed to speak is because that was the subject that was topic that was publicly advertised. You can only talk about card key access at that meeting. I'm in agreement with him 100%. Yes, we need a program for residents around the lake, but we couldn't legally talk about that subject at the last LMAC meeting.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I really don't wanna get into arguments or have just a debate over whatever.
I was accused of saying something out of context. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Okay, now he's gonna have to answer that. Go ahead, Bill.
Jeff Morris, 14 Columbia Landing. I brought up the topic and I was gonna start a discussion on it because it was part of the ordinance and the regulations that was gonna be discussed. He pointed out that it was only about the gate and the gate access. But then the conversation continued with further board discussion and invasive species, inspection did come up. So, he can turn around and say that it's illegal and whatever it is, but you still prevented an audience member from speaking during a point that was trying to be made, and then you had your own discussion. So, you wanna be fair and equitable.
Okay, moving on, So other than education and notification. Any other comments on this? On this piece, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So, can we talk more about the horsepower inspection?
Is
Section 5.
Within this?
Go
ahead.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at the right one.
Yep, paragraph 5.
Yeah. So the existing language, I believe, says no modifications may be made to any motorboat's engine horsepower to qualify. I mean, last meeting, well, there was a decision made. I certainly would at least recommend we discuss, is that even valid? Should we allow or put language which provides on a case-by-case basis that, you know, alternative means like a dynamometer, if I pronounce it right, on a case-by-case basis can be used to determine horsepower.
Yeah, so there was a couple things in here. One of them was the size of was it in this one, the size of the?
I think the other one, it said horsepower.
I know, I'm right here, we're with you, okay? And then there's another one that says the size, is there one that felt the size in this?
Yes, sir, really right there. 4, right? Bottom of page 2.
Oh, clearly, that is not clearly less than 26 feet. Any person seeking to launch a motorboat on the lake that is not clearly less than 26 feet in the judgment of the inspector viewing or measuring tip to bow. It won't be let in. Excluding engines shall present the original title or certificate of origin for the motorboat to establish its length. So you're setting 26 feet as the length of boats on the water.
No bigger.
Is the boat from a couple of years ago greater than 26 feet?
32 feet.
And if we. Was there a length? There was no length the last time this came before us.
Correct.
Correct.
Pardon, that
Yes, sir.
there was a length of 26 feet in the ordinance that came before you that you approved, and then it went to the DEP. And it threw comments, not necessarily about that, but other things, and so we've come back and revamped the ordinance and presented it to you in a different fashion. But the 26 feet was there 20 months ago when you
Okay,
looked at
but
it.
when it was not, when it was approved by us and then it was shot down by DEP or you pulled it, one or the other. That nullifies that, correct?
Yes, there, that
Okay.
order, yeah.
And that's not even, I understand what you're saying, I'm looking at this, but I remember 20 months ago, whatever, when we were talking about that boat. Somebody let it stay on the lake.
Somebody what?
Let it stay on the lake. I said I wanted it off the lake because it said 26 feet, and I was told. It didn't say, there was no, I was, there was no, at the time that boat went on the lake, there was no lake.
Correct.
Correct, there was no enforceable.
And so then we started looking at the 26 feet, and I think the boat in question was bigger than that. So we did, but we let it stay on the lake because it was on the lake prior to us talking. That's why I hate this. So. But any of these ordinances or any of these rules. Can they be? How does the board of selectmen come into play with that?
Okay.
Other than voting for these when we find it and bringing the town meeting and stuff.
You grandfathering, the concept of grandfathering is not a legal requirement in the statutes or the ordinances. And so that's why it's not in this particular ordinance. The ordinance, when we look at it, I believe talks about having an effective date retroactive for purposes of letting people, we let people know that we're considering these things, like you change taxes, it's gonna start here, so you might wanna think about what you're doing in terms of length of boats or horsepower or whatever else. But we left grandfathering for the board of selectmen to determine. You could ask LMAC to draft it in specifically, or you can just handle it on a case-by-case basis.
Is it courtesy?
At this point in time, in the last meeting, I'm done with, outside the ordinances as they are going to be voted on, okay? Because there should be we're asked for these, so there is no muckiness of the language. There is nowhere to poke a hole and go, but you didn't say this, and you didn't say that, and you didn't say that. Grandfathering is gone. We've made some decisions. But we want this to be cut and dry, boom. Okay, now, I know of 2 watercraft. And I'm not even talking about properties touching the lake and stuff like that, but you're now going after 26 feet as the length, yes.
Why we went after 26 feet was well researched. We researched first throughout the state of Connecticut. We're one of the few lakes, one of the very few lakes our size in the 280 acre. Then we, in our discussions with Deep, asked Deep, and Deep came up with a 23 to 26 foot. And Deep referred us to Candlewood Lake, which is a 5,700 acre lake. And they had just limited to a maximum length of 26 feet. So this has been well researched as to why do it for the size of this lake.
I get it, this is a glorified pond, Mary, it's a beautiful. Big pond, 250 acres. So I get it.
Just one more thing. We limit our docks to 20 feet. Now they're grandfathered docks. But then we're gonna get something 26 feet, okay, we're out 6 feet. From a safety point of view, for those around the lake, probably a good thing, they should stay 100 feet away from the dock. But if we keep going out to 30, 32, 35, in addition to which, you're gonna get larger motors that you want on a diameter.
Yeah.
For the sake of the lake,
I
environmental,
know.
but safety wise.
I had a discussion, this is an example. Town changes the speed limit on a road, but you've been living on that road for 50 years, they changed the speed limit for safety from 40 down to 25. The time you get a ticket for doing 40, you don't say to the cop, hey, I'm grandfathered, I've been on this road for 50 years, it's been 40, I'm grandfathered here. That doesn't fly anymore. And I gotta tell you, that's the way everybody has to conform to what is best. Mr. Yes, sir.
Jeff Morrison, 14 Columbia Landing, just to discuss the 26-foot number again. I'm hearing that it's just because other places have done it. I haven't really heard the dynamics behind it. I haven't heard the data. I've asked for the data. My other concern about this motorboat definition is the fact that they're defining any motor vehicle, trailer, rack, or other equipment used to store, transport, or launch watercraft, including all motorboats, non-motorized watercraft. Okay, I don't have an issue with the motorboats or non-motorized. Connecticut Department of Motor Vehicle classifies a definition of a vessel as any vessel equipped with propulsion machinery, any watercraft with a motor, regardless of size, must be registered with the DMV prior to launch. That's their definition. So when it comes down to a motorcraft, to start adding in all parts of motor vehicles into it.
I think that's for the safety of inspection for stuff that can be on,
AIS,
when they-
thank you,
I need to speak.
sorry.
I'm very excited over here, young lady. It's when they launch and pull it out.
Okay,
That can be inspected before it hits the town's lake.
okay.
We have that right. That's just for that.
I think it's a little bit overly clarified, because in the same aspect, when you come down to enforcement, everything around the lake, launch is enforceable. It's now enforceable with a fine, but when it comes down to the waterfront property and self-inspection under, what was it, non-motorized watercraft for residents, there's really no definition of any type of enforcement. And from my understanding, with LMAC, they're gonna be referring enforcement to the planning and zoning. Again, going back to those properties where you have multiple people that don't live in town, how are you gonna conduct enforcement on waterfront property owners that are maybe, could be in violation or found in violation, but town residents that are utilizing town ramp, being inspected by a town official, are gonna be automatically held to this standard of, we're gonna hold you, you know, if you're in violation, we're gonna refer you to the citing officer, whatever they mentioned here. Okay, which goes through planning and zoning, which ends up attaching to a property. I'm having a hard time understanding how we can enforce one side at one point of entry, but we have over 3 miles that we can't enforce anything.
That's not true.
So I'm trying to. You understand?
Yeah, it's. How do we, enforce?
There's nothing in the regulation, nor the ordinance for self-inspection when it comes down to that.
I'm saying again now?
There's nothing in the regulation nor the town ordinance that's being proposed that addresses that type of enforcement. The only enforcement is coming from qualified town inspectors.
The enforcement section of the ordinance applies to the whole ordinance. That means it applies to the self-inspection at fishermen when they launch with a key card program, and it also applies to the self-inspection that's done by a town resident. If there's a kayak or a canoe on the lake that doesn't have the required sticker on it, or even if it does have the required sticker on it, the Marine Patrol goes up and asks the person that's in it, did that boat get inspected? And they can either go through what they did, or if they say, gee, I don't know, then they can get a warning, or if it's multiple times, they can get a ticket. The tickets are given out, there's some confusion there. It's may be the same as the zoning enforcement, but it's not done by zoning enforcement. It's done under the town's enforcement section of the code, where the tree warden, the zoning, the dog warden, other people can use it to make citations for violations.
Right.
And we've just adopted it for purposes of lake.
It's in there.
Yes.
And it's the same way that if you don't pass an inspect, or if you launch illegally at the beach, you get the citation and the fine in the same fashion.
Quickly, under the town ordinance, last page, page 9, we have offered to Board of Selectmen under penalties, part B, 2 options relative to non-motorized watercraft from private property. Now, fine them or don't you want to fine them? No fine or a fine up to $250. So there was discussion relative to enforcement, penalties being imposed, and we put 2 options in that last page for the board to consider.
Can a friend of mine from Manchester bring his own kayak and launch it in Columbia Lake?
Yes.
As of today, I
Okay,
would say that.
so then they won't have a stick around there, correct?
Well,
So then what happens? Do you pull them over, Mr. Morrison?
actually, I don't, putting my Marine Patrol hat on, I don't have the authority to make stops. It's statutory. Because I don't fall under the statutory peace officer to actually, stop somebody.
So you don't make any stops out there?
I can make a citizen contact, and if they want to drive away, they can drive away.
I'm sorry, you can make a what?
I can make what's called a citizen contact and go up to them and talk to them, but if they want to drive away, they can drive away.
Does our Marine Patrol have no ability to pull somebody over?
I don't understand what he's saying. I'm under the impression that they do. It's a matter of town charters.
Uh-huh.
What? What's the discussion? If we could help me?
He made the comparison to being like a security guard. And I said, yes, that's exactly what it is. There is Connecticut state law that classifies when you activate a flashing light and a siren and use a uniform, that is constructing a seizure. In the state of Connecticut, that you must have probable cause for. We, as Marine Patrol, are not classified under the statutory definition of what a peace officer is that has that authority. So I can make a citizen contact, I can roll up to them and say, hey, how you doing?
But you can't put the lights on.
Technically, no.
And you
And
can't
that's
wear your
opening
uniform.
up, that is opening up the town to a liability issue, yes.
What are we doing here? I really,
Could we have the town attorney weigh in on that? I'm confused as to, our Marine Patrol has been stopping.
I taught this
For
for
decades.
15 years at the Connecticut Police Academy. And I taught police officers this. And how to handle security guards with the enforcement of crime.
We're not,
Okay, I can bring you state statute and case law that establishes what is constructed as a seizure and what is a stop. Now, in other states, you can do this. Unfortunately, under Connecticut Supreme Court, you can't. And that's Appundo v. Connecticut.
Mr. Powell, you have a comment?
yes, Bob Powell, 697 Road. It's my understanding that the Marine Patrol work under the direct supervision of the state trooper. Is that correct?
We're not deputized.
No, we're special agents under,
That doesn't fall under the statutory requirement for a police officer.
Okay, thank you. I'm not, again, once again, we need to check into this,
You
please.
get more information,
Because that, you know,
you get more information on it, see if he's right. Good point.
yes,
I agree that it should be researched by my office. This what had been cleared by the attorneys there for this enforcement mechanism, but we will check on this particular issue.
Thank you.
don't bill me for it. Learn some attorney. Okay. I really just kind of, no pun intended, blows me out of the water. Okay, where do we go next then? All right, well, this doesn't. So you don't have the ability to give fines,
No.
tickets.
Well, that under the town charter, I don't understand because I've asked the rec director about that. And I've asked for clarification how Marine Patrol is classified with the town charter as fine officers or something that was discussed at the LMAC meeting. And there wasn't any clear path that was explained.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
yes, in the past, the Marine Patrol, they had forms that they filled out, they were complaint forms. They were turned over to the state trooper for his analysis and his determination as to whether the citation would be issued. If the citation was to be issued, it was by the state trooper.
Okay. Mr. Bassett?
You gotta recognize that we're under the old ordinances and things we're operating now, and there isn't a good or efficient way of rendering fines or passing out tickets. That's what this proposes to remedy.
Cause, you know, we have all these rules and regulations, if you can't police them. I mean, it's just gonna be tough, some people are gonna follow them, some people aren't gonna care.
I don't disagree, they've gotta be enforceable.
They gotta be enforceable.
And they have been in the past, just as is indicated, we went to the state troopers. We went with a complaint, and the state trooper issued the fine or didn't issue the fine.
That's if the state trooper will issue it.
Thank you.
In the last 2 years, I've worked with the state trooper to do anything and have gotten nothing.
Well, the town has a state trooper, they pay.
It was our state trooper. Carmen, please. We have a new one. I've opened up dialogue. They are open to doing the job and doing it correctly. I need to know where we go, how do I make sure we get this done, okay? All right, thank you. So,
Can I ask a question on that?
absolutely.
A horsepower inspection. So if, I suspect there's some people on the lake who could increase their, the horsepower based on what the numbers are. They could make it higher. So where don't wanna use that dynameter to determine if people have, increased it.
First of all, we don't own one.
I guess they're, yeah.
Second of all,
It's true.
I think 2 weeks ago, somebody talked about a little bit of trust. I don't think we really need to do a citizen stop. Or we have the authority to say we're gonna hook your boat up to a diamond. Because we believe you're going, you got too much, you rigged you have too much horsepower. I'm not even, I understand your concern.
Just it can go either way. You're right. You trust, but not everybody's gonna follow.
Yes, sir.
To speak to Judy's concern, the ordinance does say that no modification is allowed. So if a modification does turn up in one fashion or another, it can be challenged and treated as a fine. So it would be breaking the law to have a modification that increased horsepower from what is stated on the title.
You have something to say?
I guess I was just gonna ask, so are we moving on from this paragraph? Because again, I think we ought to reconsider the no modifications and make it on a case-by-case basis that the board of selectmen may consider other information. If someone's willing to pay the money and provide justification that their motor has been detuned and it varies from what their state registration or whole number, serial number says, I mean, why don't we just leave that opening there, we consider on a case-by-case basis? I mean, we have to, but.
Because I've asked around, there is history of places falsifying paperwork. There has been history of it. So, and we don't have a dynameter. And I'm not spending money to buy one.
Well, I'm not suggesting we do, if someone's willing to invest their own money and do it. For whatever reason, to try to be compliant. I just don't like the language that says no modification, because I think that ties our hands. I mean, technology has advanced in years, but.
And yet I heard 2 weeks ago that, or last week, I feel like I'm here every day. It's 30-something different engines they can get that meet the requirements. Is that what you said to us? That they can get an engine that's not, that is within the limits.
I don't recall 30, but I do have data, but I'm not prepared to present it tonight.
Please, don't present it.
And if
Last, with Mr. Sodergren. I did that. I let him come in and present, okay? Because he came to me in a manner that was self-reported. Hey, listen, I did this. I've been on the lake for 2 or 3 years. I did this. This is my paperwork. And it was kind of not only his self-reporting and being forthcoming, I believe, but it was also, Mac, let's go. I need this stuff. And that's why we're here. That's why I said 2 weeks ago or last week, it ends now. If 5 people out here said to me, you know, I've been putting my boat on the water, the horsepower is a little bit higher than it says, the sticker says it's 150, but it's really over that, since you're gonna check the serial number, I'm not, I'd say you're not putting your boat on the water. And that's me, you're not putting your boat on the water. Okay? Just because you think it's okay to be forthcoming now, after the fact. Because I allowed it for one when I believe they were truthful. I don't care, you're not getting on the lake. I mean, I'm one vote, but I gotta tell you. You're not getting on the lake. So I really. I think this did a lot to clarify how to clean it, when it has to be cleaned. We talked about how people should be notified, okay? People who come here who don't reside here, who may rent or come from somewhere else and they have the authority to use a dwelling or use the lake because of whatever, could be anybody in town, doesn't even have to be a trust, doesn't even have to be a summer home, doesn't have to be anything. Could be anybody who lives in town. Hey, you got a lake in town? You got a lake, I heard it was nice, let's go down there and put a rowboat in the water, we got one, okay. You've done a lot here, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Problem is, we've raised a couple more questions, huh? Can we write them a ticket? Can we flash our blue light? Can we pull them over? Are they breaking the rules? What can I do about it when they break the rules? You know, if you haven't noticed, I don't like having rules out there that when people break them, they snub their nose at us. I remember Lake Patrol saying, this person was swearing at me, screaming at me, telling me off, disrespecting me. What can we do about it? Not much. Not much. So we have some more work to do. We need to talk to the attorney. You get us your views on it. And we're gonna put together an educational piece. We're gonna put together a piece that people can tack on. We tack it on down at the lake, at the gate, at the lifeguard station, on the post down there. Tack it in the ladies and men's room. Okay, I don't care. What does it take to do another laminate? 25 cents? What's it take to clean a lake? 100,000 a year? Spend 25 cents, but we can make them. And we'll tack it to everybody's dock, or we'll knock on everybody's door. We make 2, one for the front door, one for the dock. Okay?
And education is so important.
It
It's
is
hard to
important.
do.
It's a great point. You have a great
It's
point.
really important.
So, I don't. Is this ready to go to a public hearing?
Well, it sounds like you still have a few questions you wanna clarify, so I don't wanna be clarifying these in a public hearing.
Right.
So I think we'll move it to the next board, so that we can have those answers and then get the public.
And I'm gonna address your concern, because you and I talked about it, okay? I respect you, I respect your knowledge, and I do respect your position on the sake of the lake. Just rolls off my tongue, it's amazing, sake of the lake, it's wonderful, I respect that. But it's everybody's lake, and you've agreed with me, and I respect that too. You said, listen, I'm concerned. But it's never too early to educate. And if it's a day left in the season, and we have those things, we're gonna get them out,
For sure,
okay?
yeah, for sure.
So I do appreciate your thoughts on this, Henry.
I do believe the Lake Association already voluntarily, wherever this goes, is putting an education program in place this summer.
Right,
Important.
great.
So know that this letter came in, it'll be published with meeting minutes, but
We didn't really discuss that, did we?
we haven't, but it's a letter that.
Okay, we received a letter, an email letter from Stacy and Brent Biernot. Biernot. They live on 206 Jonathan Trumbull Highway, which is Route 87. And they are sending a letter for environmental and public interest concerning regarding policy 190-30, and I believe that's the horsepower on the way. So I'm not talking about that. Okay, but I'm just telling you, we got this, you'll stay in the binder, we will present it as their argument for or against. When we talk about, are we talking about the ordinances now, or you want to wait till, because we're not going through me,
Well, I need to know if there's any other questions on the ordinances, so we should probably just get them on the table.
yes.
From the band, one big road. I missed this, I'm just asking. What was decided about fees to the boat ramp? Has that been decided? Did that change from last year?
So let me address that. Thank you for asking that, okay? The key system was not it didn't do what we hoped it would, okay? We tried a couple of years, but people left the gate open, people used it for, improper boats on the water, people used it and let the gate open for other people and stuff. It didn't truly work. I was in the spring, it's so frustrating, I mean, you're sitting at these meetings, we know it's frustrating. I rarely go to the lake, I love the lake because you love the lake. I'd pull the plug right in the middle if I had a shot, big plug. And I was against the key. I really was, but then the fishermen, they have a point, it's their lake too. And I agree, it's everybody's lake, but they want their boat on the water at midnight or 6 AM or whatever, so they can fish. Hurt them poor little fish. I don't get it, but they want it. So I had to get them on the lake, so we brought back the key system. Until we've identified a card key mechanism. And we're going to boost the cameras down there. We're going to a card key that I don't know what makes it any different, really.
Well,
You can lend it out to somebody, but
the time,
it'll have time dated on there, it'll have video of you applying it. If it's your key and you lend it to somebody else and they don't look a lot like you, you both are gonna have some trouble, okay? I don't know if I have any teeth to say that, yeah,
You can lock,
But you can lock your card in.
yeah, you can lock the card out,
right,
that's easy.
so,
and when you sign for the card, you'll be acknowledging whatever.
yeah, you will acknowledge what the consequences are. So. I know I said I hate the key. It didn't do right. I hate the key, I'm sorry. But I had other people to listen to, and I have other people in town to listen to too. So, hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Listen, I backpedaled. I forgot there was other people in this town. My call, it wasn't my call, all right? I welded the gate shut for everybody. So, all right. Yes, sir.
Just want to point out, because you're moving on from the regulations, there is one other open issue for the board to think about. And you can do it the next time when it comes up, but that is the fees that are associated with inspections and fines and getting stickers and so forth. And you can decide that there are no fees, you can put fees in at any point in time. So it's just an open issue. If you want to give some guidance ahead of time for something to be drafted, you can provide that. Otherwise, it's going to be an open issue for discussion when it comes up again.
Again, if it was up to me, I'd make it hurt. I'd make it hurt. Okay, the 250, I wanted $500, but the 250, okay. But I have other people to listen to and everything, I get it. You know, still think about it.
Excuse me, Bob Powell, 690 South Road. The 250 was established by doing $2,025 versus the $100 that was established 20 years ago. So the $100 20 years ago is the equivalent of 250 now, so it's the same.
Let's think about tomorrow, Bob.
Yeah.
Let's talk tomorrow, my Bitcoin is $110,000, I want 500, never mind. So, yeah. I want it to hurt.
It
That's,
wasn't an arbitrary number is what I'm saying.
That's the fine, which you can set too, but there are administrative fees potentially. And then you could have an inspection fee to help cover some of the town's costs. You can have a sticker fee to cover the cost of the sticker that goes on a non-motorized watercraft or motorized watercraft. You could use the fees to create a sinking fund for the sake of the lake. So that the town has a place to turn to for resources eventually when it may need to have a study or do something. So those are all issues that are open to the selectmen to consider. They can start with 0 and do it next year or 5 years from now, but I'm just telling you, you're gonna have to start with either 0 or some number.
Okay. You know, New York had what is it, like a usage fee down in Manhattan.
Congestion.
Congestion, yeah. We could have a time on the lake fee for your boat.
There you go.
Just a thought, you like sparked my mind.
Card key access could be tied into your credit card.
Yeah, so, all right, we'll think about that. I hate asking for more money for people who enjoy the lake. So, because we all should enjoy the lake. Anybody else here? So we'll conclude this discussion right here.
on regulations, or are we including on regulations and the ordinance?
Well, the ordinance ties into some of the regulations, yes?
Well, the regulations are designed so we can change those without a town meeting, very more regulatory, but the ordinance is going to take a public hearing and then of course something vote.
Is there anything in the ordinance that we talked on the regulation tonight that's gonna affect it?
Yeah, it was just,
A lot of my points were from
penalties. Sounds like we're sticking with the 250. Option 1 and 2, you can decide whether you prefer one or two. Option, alternative 2 on page 9 is at 250. Option 1,
But you talked about enforcement, you talked about penalties, you talked about, we talk about actions and what they can and cannot do. Is that mentioned in here?
no,
there was discussion about how you establish your self-inspectors. In the ordinance for waterfront property owners.
Help me out, where in here? You must have. Qualified non-residents, these people, qualified resident, qualified
that's
non-resident.
just the
I
term.
talked about that.
Those are
Definitions.
Non-motorized watercraft launching inspections, first paragraph, there was discussion about training and education. Third paragraph was talking about, enforcement. If non-motorized is, well, my point that I was gonna bring up was, enforcement of non-motorized, vessels that are found in violation of this on other bodies of water. There's nothing really specified when it comes down to any type of enforcement. You know, establishing that just because you're a waterfront property owner, you're gonna be qualified as a self-inspector when everybody else goes through the town training and takes a test for off hours, or they go through Marine Patrol to conduct that invasive species inspection. That are trained to the DEP standards. Again, it comes down to education for property owners.
Okay, I'm gonna probably give my opinion again here, because if somebody's putting a kayak in the water off of somebody's residence without having it inspected, and they've read our signs, please inspect, please do this, please wash your kayak and stuff. That's quite a bit different than having somebody roll through the gated area with a boat and a trailer and a motor and bilges and everything else, correct?
I would argue that. Because kayaks and these enclosed, non-motorized watercraft can hold water. And by holding water coming from other bodies of water, it's no different than a bilge or a live well. DEP recommends that it's clean, trained, and dry.
Yeah, and that's what the education stuff will say.
And something that I've been doing with inspections, I did inspections today with Pete's Marine, and I told them to dry the bilge.
So are you
Because filters come
suggesting,
down that are wet.
okay, are you suggesting that everybody who puts a kayak or a canoe or a skull on the water has to do it through the town gate area?
That would be able to control it.
That's not practical. Yes, sir, I haven't heard from you.
John Bogert, 6 College Road. The gate is not manned 24 hours a day. So you can worry about the property owners around the lake all you want, but there's nothing to stop somebody from driving in from Manchester at 7 o'clock in the evening and launching their kayak at the town beach.
Mary?
I refer you to the town ordinance proposed, section 120-28, page 7.
120 or 190?
190-28, non-motorized watercraft launching and inspections. There are 3 paragraphs there that are related to a resident owner of a non-motorized watercraft and how to launch it, and there is reference to self-inspection, educational materials, as well as a sticker from the town.
Yeah.
We have made these recommendations, and to your point, we have to educate,
Right.
and we have to alert, and we have a sticker program, that at least they got a smack sticker on to say they've read these in the. It's 3 paragraphs.
Well, I understand, go ahead.
If a resident who lives on the lake allows somebody to come in from Manchester and put on their boat without inspection, they can be fined. The resident can be fined. And that's part of the education program here, to let people know it's not a freebie.
No.
It's not voluntary.
Is it feasible? And we have people on the lake who have 3 or 4 kayaks that, as Carmen says, live on the lake, the kayaks don't fill. To suggest that we're gonna haul rowboats, canoes, paddle.
Mr. Morrison. I understand what you're saying, but I will refer back to an hour and a half ago, hour and 20 minutes. We're never gonna be 100%. I do believe that the people who allow others to bring kayaks and are visiting maybe properties on the lake, I put my trust that they would wanna do the due diligence and say, hey, you know, have you inspected it, have you washed it, where's it been, type of thing. Because I know it's not their lake, but the value of the property that they have, that lake gets overloaded with weeds and everything, it takes a huge hit. So again, we talked about trust. I understand what you're saying. I don't see where we really can get everybody, because that gentleman had a good point. somebody from anywhere at 7 o'clock, well, 9 o'clock at night. Could drop in from anywhere, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we wouldn't know where they come from, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So, this. The ordinance, this is the ordinance, right? Changing the ordinance.
Yes,
You're saying this is okay to go, and you wanna make a meeting, because it doesn't address the.
well, there's still some questions on
What?
on the ordinance.
Okay.
I'd say, let's, let's work this all through the workforce session.
All right, we'll see you in the next 2 weeks. Got it? Okay, anybody have anything else on that? And again, everybody. Thank you very much for your input. You know, I know it gets a little contentious, maybe a little firm in here, but it's all for the same thing. Equal use on a beautiful clean lake. So, thank you. Discussion on the proposal for nutrient load sensitivity analysis, Columbia Lake watershed. Why do I think this is gonna be a 2-minute discussion? Hold on, whose is this?
It's a request from LMAC to authorize.
Hopefully it is a 2-minute discussion. This is a study that we would like TRC, our consultant, to conduct, to provide data that will be helpful for everyone in town to understand the impact of the proposed zoning regulations and agriculture on the lake. The only reason it's on your agenda was a concern that it may not be covered by LMAC's budget, but Mary Royko informed me that it appears that it can be covered by LMAC's budget, and that LMAC has authorized the spending of the $8,000 to have this study done, so that we have some empirical data to help analyze the effect of that. And so we just would ask Mark to confirm that there is money in the LMAC budget to handle that. The alternatively was to request the selectmen to fund it or to fund any shortfall.
It'll be close. The numbers of the next 2 tests that are committed for drainage through TRC. Plus, if we have to do any of the bacteria testing at any of the drains, there might be a cost if we're trying to determine whether E. coli or animal or human. There might need to be a transfer if you use the full 8,000. So it's not guaranteed we have enough.
You want me to discuss this?
Yes, so we brought it to our town planner and our land use department, got their opinion as well. They wrote an email.
So this is what they said, this is from John Guskowski, he is on the zoning. And Savannah Kitchen, who is inland water and.
And Savannah's on the call if you have.
Excellent. So it says here, I believe, Mark, I believe after several hearings with planning and zoning, I would be able to help advocate for a compromise position on a proposed agricultural / livestock regulation. The proposal would be in the Columbia Lake watershed A district, Alpha A district, the livestock regulations would remain as is. Meaning that you would need a minimum of 3 acres to host livestock. Elsewhere in town, the proposed regulation eliminating minimum acreage or animal density, but placing minimum separation distances between animal housing and residences would remain and be adopted. All this part too?
Yeah, well, that gets
Makes sense to
into
me.
where they have a problem with how Chersky was going to do the analysis.
The concern with the proposed study, your analysis here,
Oh, wait, team.
relative to the concerns expressed at the PZC are as follows. The proposal is just a desktop analysis of nutrient loading based on assumed levels from different land use types. Agriculture is treated as a single entity. One nutrient load coefficient across all types of agriculture, crops, pasture, animals of every type, every density, every property size. There is no clear direct line of the analysis proposed to the actual intensity or potential nutrient loading from actual animal operations in the watershed. So you really can't hone it down that tight. That's what I'm getting from that. The currently proposed regulations would significantly limit the ability of the small lakefront lots to house animals, particularly larger animals like horses and cows. It is not clear that the consultant's model would be able to account for that. There is an enormous difference between 2 chickens and 15 chickens. Or 1 small pony to 1 large Clydesdale. There's also a huge difference between best practices for manure management and neglecting any sanitary approaches. This model does not seem to account for that either. You get all this? Good on you.
Who's that from?
John Guskowski.
And Savannah weighed into where the point was that they think a study could be very helpful, but it has to be a more inclusive study. That would take into effect specific areas of types of animals and density of animals. And distance from the lake. So this was one solution where you do the eliminate animals from this district, except for you have to have at least 3 acres, which is only a couple of lots.
For large livestock and
Any livestock.
Henry, I gotta call on the gentleman behind you, you've never talked before.
No. James Lock, 24 Doubleday Road. So I would argue against that this is empirical in any way. This is a simulation that the agency is running based on a number of assumptions. So anything like that would not be admissible in any kind of court because it's a lot of conjecture within a simulation. That's why John wrote down a number of not complaints, but issues that we may have with it. Because I have the same issues. I think we can try to dial it down further, I guess, to try to make it a little more accurate, but it's still a simulation that we're gonna base our zoning regulations on a simulation.
This has gotten quite emotional, obviously, but we want to base it on data. And I'm happy to work with John. I'm happy to work with others to try to fine tune and get the best information, but we want to base it on information. They haven't been able to tell us where the 100 feet setback from one house to a animal shelter comes from. Or where the 50 feet comes from. I think we may even, theoretically, if it's 50 feet, we ought to have Eastern Highlands weigh in on it because of the fact it's closer than 75 feet from a well potentially. And so the issue is also that since the 2003, the town has spent a lot of money and the people living in these ABC watershed overlay zones have spent a lot of money to control phosphorus getting into the lake and to protect the lake. And they've done it based on research that had been put together back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And we shouldn't throw that out. just because somebody is now saying 100 feet is okay without any support, or that less than so many acres are okay. The fact of the matter is, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to believe that a couple of chickens makes more phosphate than what we're presently trying to collect off of roofs and driveways in the course of a year on one property. And so we do need to have our expert, who we've hired and who does the studies of the lake, give us the best intelligence. People may be able to challenge it, people may be able to support it, but hopefully if we fine tune to get the best we can, it will add something to the situation, which right now we have no empirical data to support making any of these changes in the lake watershed area. Other than the fact that people would like more agriculture. I love it too. I mean, I have a garden. I used to keep chickens. There's not in my house where I live elsewhere, but there is reason to love our history in town and want agriculture. We're not against agriculture at all. We want to control phosphate in the lake.
Yes, ma'am.
Kristen Locke, 24 Double A Road. There's a continual conversation that's happened at these different meetings regarding this topic where we talk about chickens as if they're going to be pooping directly in the lake and there's gonna be 60 pounds of manure from one chicken, and it's just not how keeping chickens works. There's no consideration for what's being absorbed in the ground and filtered out, which I believe is probably why LMAC wants this study. My issue is with the simulation nature of the study, and that this consultant is a paid consultant by the town who it seems like a conflict of interest to have someone we're paying give us data that may or may not look like what we want it to look like based on what we want regulations to look like.
So who has chickens and a horse within 100 feet of the lake?
My grandmother used to.
Is your grandmother still alive?
No,
That's,
that doesn't matter. People may want to keep ducks.
yeah.
But if you read the regulations, they spent a little time, they're supposed to be in fenced in enclosure.
Correct. Where they're.
So it's not like,
Well,
that's,
first of all,
that's the
They're not running
regulations.
around.
This isn't a zoning meeting. We're here to
I'm
talk
just
about.
telling,
I know, but I'm just, you know,
I took the time to read the zoning regulations, I've been sick, it's just crazy. My issue with this consultant is we spent a fortune last year trying to target where phosphorus was coming out. Did we ever find sources?
We're starting to. We made progress to know that 60+% is coming from stormwater drainage. We made progress to know that it's coming from Utley Pond, Lake Road, and Erdoney Road.
Okay, is it coming from the pond or is it coming from, so where was that water sample taken? And I'd love to see some of this data because I think the water sample should be taken before any properties that are abutting it, where it's just all wild. And I don't believe that's where it was taken further down. The water samples, they were not taken up where, power lines are, where it's just wild. It was taken further down, so could it had water coming into it from the abutting properties? And so that, I have questions as to where he's taking his data from to begin with. It seems kind of odd to blame it on a beaver pond.
If your concept is right, and that it was taken at a lower level and not up there, and then you just said the phosphorus is coming from the properties.
No, I'm saying, I don't know if it is. They should take one from the pond itself.
yeah,
Because if you walk that, the pond is there, it's a double pond, there's two dams, and then it runs down and there's a series of waterfalls and rocks and cascades. And that all disperses phosphorus, that is aerating it. So we need one at that end, there's a bridge, there's a stone bridge. That's like, there should be one there, and then there should be taken another one at the end. which would make sense to me, then you kind of figure out where it's coming from. Is it coming from the beaver pond, or is it coming?
But we work hard with trying to get people to not use certain kinds of fertilizer, to do certain things to their lawns, so that we avoid as much phosphorus runout
And
as possible.
that's good.
Correct, but now you're talking about putting little animals all over that. That add to the phosphorus.
Okay,
No,
so of all the houses in town that have 4 acres, how many of them have chickens? How many chickens do you think are actually going to be, chickens are work, chickens require care. People don't want them, how many people even have dogs and cats and complain about them? It's just, I come from a different point of view. If one day you needed chickens, because you needed to make food, because something happened in the world that all of a sudden people need to be able to grow food, I wouldn't want to have to change regulations first before I could have a few chickens to have eggs for my kids. I don't believe you're gonna see this enormous influx of people, oh, I can have chickens now, and everybody's gonna have.
You don't have to have enormous influx, you have to have your next door neighbor doing it. On a little plot of land that you're living next to, that you just bought a house in a residential area that you didn't expect to smell the manure, you didn't expect the chickens, you didn't expect because it's zoned, so you can't do that.
So it's not as much as phosphorus as a.
I do agree with you, that they should be testing the pond first. They could be dumping everything up there down in there later.
Well, from LMAC's perspective, two things. We have an expert. We've relied on them for why they test where they do. When we ask reasons, they give us good reasons. Methodically, they're moving up. We'll get it done. And we'll try to get it done as fast as we can. From LMAC's perspective, we're not weighing in on whether you can have chickens at the lake or not have the lake. If we have an ordinance that says you can do whatever you want with livestock, as long as you also have to comply with the requirements of your phosphate load coming off your property under the existing zoning regulations, we could probably live with that. But we may not even need to do that if the test says we don't. So that's what we're looking to try to figure out.
But he just complained, I don't think it's funny, stated that people who live on the lake are putting in boats that aren't inspected, they don't do this, they don't do that. And all of a sudden, you're gonna turn it into farmland and expect everyone there to comply. It won't happen. It doesn't comply now, according to them, related to the boating.
Yes, sir.
Oh. It's not, the regulatory changes are not as extreme as they're being made out to be. There's still, I would say, restrictions on a lot of these smaller properties around the lake that would not be able to, even based on the changes, so.
Yeah, like Henry said, this is not a zoning meeting and stuff. I honestly, we went a different way. The bottom line is, does the board, this is a discussion. I don't even have to do anything here. But you're working it out with Mary, if they wanna pay for it, the late LMAC, if out of their budget wants to pay for this. It's like,
Yeah, our meeting is on the 4th of June in this room. And anybody wants to come and talk about that study, we will certainly take the information that was volunteered here tonight and talk to the consultant about it. But we also have a 60-day time frame from the planning and zoning in which to get this done, so we have to move forward.
yeah, okay, one more.
Kristen Lachlan for Doubleday Road. Columbia has a right to farm town.
Yes.
And a lot of the concerns that keep being raised are in concerns to basically nuisance. They don't wanna smell it, they don't wanna hear it. The right to farm laws protect farms, protect properties from that concern. For that reason, so why are we a right to farm town if people can then come in and put in a bunch of restrictive zoning to take that all away?
Just quickly. We're talking about 20 square miles of residential agricultural zone. LMAC, and I think LMAC, can't speak for a lot, I speak for myself, but I can report. Could consider just the LA. For restrictions, for appropriate reasons, whether it be fosters neighborly relations, whatever. So we're not talking about taking away the right to farm. We are also talking about, and the sake of the lake, and the sake of residential properties. That is the highest density population in the town of Columbia, with the highest number of non-conforming lots. It's a little different than a small farm that typically is an acre or more. If you choose to do that as planning and zoning or whoever, we'll respect that, but we just ask for respect for the issues that we are seeing.
We don't know if there's an issue, you're not
Yes.
seeing them, you wanna
Well,
do a study to see
and-
if they
Actually,
exist.
the comments come this way, I'm not gonna.
This
I
study-
understand, I got it.
This study will give you better decision-making and risk mitigation. It could be negligent. And then everybody's, okay.
But then it's a waste of
Or it could
$8,000.
be,
I'd like to see him spend as much time on
Uh,
phosphorus loads coming off everybody's lawns as he is on the chickens.
and
Yes.
I'd like that proposal,
He is.
please.
And that would be the one to look at, because my daughter just bought a house on Colonial Drive. There isn't a crabgrass, dandelion, chickweed anywhere to be seen. That house, that lawn was treated at least 3 to 4, 5 times a year with fertilizer. And so there's no way you're having a weed-free lawn without that kind of.
If it doesn't have phosphate in it.
Okay, thank you very much. Hey Savannah, I see you're on here. Thank you for coming on. I don't want to even hear anything from you. I just want to acknowledge you and say, do me a favor. We're gonna appoint you next, our inland wetlands agent and stuff like that. I know you and John bring a lot more knowledge than just the titles that you're gonna be having here. Please work, through our office and stuff. And find out this testing and, you know, let's take a look at all this stuff and figure it out for the people who live here, okay? I mean, I got farms by me, I have chickens, I just got 9 new ones, they're beautiful, they're so cute and everything, but their coop isn't above the entrance to my well, so I'm just saying, I think we can all work together. Okay, thank you. Appointments and resignations. Resignation of Bill Johnson, highway maintainer. Bill, good luck to you. Sorry to see you go, but you got another job in a different town. We came after him and gave him a different position. Resignation of Chris Lynn from Hop River Preserve Committee. I don't know how you have time for anything, Chris, so I can understand this. He's involved with a lot. He's involved with the HVAC. He was involved in this. He's on this board, so we appreciate it. It's in good hands over there, right? There. Appointment of Savannah Kitchen to the Inland Wetlands and Water as Inland Wetlands and Water Course Agent. I move to appoint Savannah Kitchen, located on our screen in the corner top left, as the Inland Wetlands and Water Course Agent. I made Mark move on this as soon as he brought a situation where he says, I believe we can do better. And I said, let's move on this. So, all those in favor? Opposed?
And just for the minutes, Savannah will stay on also as the zoning official.
Yep.
And, we'll combine those positions to full time.
I move to appoint John Guskowski as the deputy inland wetlands and water course agent. Savannah, you already got somebody working under you. That's good. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Authorize it. All those in favor? Aye. Hey, look at that. I expect your report by 8 AM. Town administrator.
Thank you.
Good night, Samantha.
Bye.
Just as the muni stat, there are, financial advisors that are handling our, as we prepare to go out for our first bond issue in 20 years. And I just wanted you to look at page 2, what they're saying, the, inflation is, stands at 2.6% year over year, with the Fed trying to target it 2. The labor market added 177,000 jobs with unemployment at 4.2%. But what's more important is you go down to the last paragraph, the surge that they're seeing in projected, they're looking at municipal bond market of nearly 500 billion this year. And that surge is accelerated by infrastructure incentives that all the towns and cities are aspiring to. And the expiration of a stimulus funding, rising project costs due to inflation, but also this potential change in tax exempt status of municipal bonds. I think Congress is finally realizing at the state level and at the federal level that if you make municipal bonds, if they lose their tax exempt status, you will shut down the only source for cities and towns to improve their infrastructure. So it would be devastating to the entire country. I don't think our legislators understood that. I think they're getting that message now. But that's why this push, and we're in the process, we hope to bond by June. Or at least have our, not bond by June, but have our upfront finances by June and our, we'll have our
Short-term finance.
our short-term financing, but also will be our status as to where our bond rating will be through Standard & Poor's. So we'll have a rating issued by that. So that's it on Unistat and. Oh, we have one other thing. What's that mean, Greg? Oh, Memorial Day. So that is next Monday at 9 o'clock. And Tim Ackert will be our guest speaker, our state representative. And it will go to about 10, and we'll also for the old yard and the center cemetery. What else? Would you want me to know?
If anyone's willing to read a proclamation.
Oh, do we have any volunteers to read proclamation?
There you go, right there. Thank you, sir.
All right,
What's your name?
James Law.
thank you, James. Put it in caps. And usually that proclamation arrives like the day before, so we'll get it to you. Just make sure Jen has your email, James. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Where's school, summer school, and music camp?
Summer school music camp at Horace Porter here.
Oh, just a heads up, we're working with the school because they have to shut down due to the HVAC project. They can't do a summer program, while that project's at full scale during the summer. So they're moving music and, they camp classes to our Romans Hall.
Oh,
Yes.
And there's also filming in Columbia.
Yes, a film crew. I don't seem to have any of that in my mind here, but anyway. I know, the film crew asked for authorization to film it's a whole program where people upgrade their houses on lakefront properties. And they targeted a house that they want to put in the filming of a possible upgrade on Columbia Lake. And they said, they want to know if there's any permits required, which there aren't. And they said it'll only be a small crew, we won't even know they're here. I'm just telling the board that,
They're not gonna launch a boat, are they? If they bring a bucket of chicken, is that
I
against
was
the rule?
gonna say, you know,
Right? If they bring KFC, is that against the regulation?
I think they
Is it
might,
on the list?
they might launch a drone to get a aerial shot. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Jen, am I missing anything else?
No, you are all set, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no transfers, refunds. I move to approve the refunds as presented totaling Whole length, is this it?
1,000.
Yes, there are refunds.
1,198, 96, 69.
So, yeah, there's no refund, but there is transfer.
No, this is a refund.
There is refunds.
How much is it?
1,196 and 68 cents.
Totaling $1,196.68. All those in favor? Let's pay some bills. I move that we approve the payment of bills totaling $225,626.14, consisting of 24.25 regular credit cards and paychecks. You're quiet, what are you doing here?
I'm here for community service for my, class.
$11,000 for data recs.
That was a project.
I'm learning a lot of
Oh, so it wasn't so much recs, it's more
That's just
wiring.
one component. It's-
Okay.
It's redoing all our cabling in the buildings.
Is this lawn treatment, chemical free?
It's organic.
Yes, it is an organic chemical.
Is there phosphorus in it?
Brush grinding, no comments. Brush
But
grinding.
organic phosphorus is found.
How about?
Brush grinding, where did we do that?
Finds.
At the transfer station, no burning.
It has to go through natural processes.
I believe you.
She was being facetious, and you
I know.
just jumped right in, you grabbed that hook and ran. All right. Anybody having discussion on the bills?
No.
All those in favor of paying?
Aye.
Thank you. Audience of citizen. State your name, sir.
Julian Ramos.
Say again, please.
Julian Ramos.
What class again?
I'm in 10th grade.
You're in 10th grade. Is this a school thing or a scout thing or what? Where do you go to school?
Winland Tech.
Okay. What'd you learn?
Have you heard of a guy named Joseph Narkowitz?
Yes?
Yeah, he lives like right.
Yeah.
Yes, he
That's
does.
my grandpa.
Oh, okay. Your father, oh, Dylan, who is he, your uncle, Dylan?
Yeah, uncle, yeah.
Uncle Dylan, yeah, Uncle Dylan. So, he went to school with my son.
Really?
Yeah,
And with mom.
and they both survived, I gotta tell you, they was crazy. Your Uncle Dylan, that's, say, some guy named Mr. Reverend said to say hello to Uncle Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah, if he says anything about me, he's lying. I never would ever got caught doing that. It's okay. So you're just here for like the civics class?
Yeah,
Good.
So what did you learn?
I learned a lot, about boats and had to argue a lot.
Is my wife in the audience? We didn't argue, we just discussed things loudly. Come on. No, I love you. Man. That's just democracy. You have the right, if you feel you have information, you have the right to say it. Hopefully in a respectful manner. I mean, it gets a little heated sometimes, but.
I mean, it's not as bad as my family talking politics.
You don't talk politics. It's requiring that. So, listen, thank you for coming out, all right? Anytime you wanna come over. You come back, sit down, got questions? I don't care, you got questions. Call anybody on the board here, call anybody, why they talk the way they talk in the audience, why they ask the questions, why they feel the way they do. All education will be brighter for it, okay? All right, great. Anybody else, audience or citizen? I just call on people, it doesn't matter, you can shake your head no. So, no, all set, Ian, nothing tonight. God bless you, everybody was talking, man. Oof, you're a smart girl, I gotta tell you, say nothing. All right, nothing there, board member comments.
I really appreciate Zoom meetings. I do. I was able to watch the last
Stay
meeting.
home in your blanket and.
I was in bed. I'm still not good.
Mm.
So,
You're feeling better?
Anything?
No.
You see different sides of the spectrum, different sides of the scale, you know what I mean? Right to farm versus chickens crapping in my neighbor's yard and stuff, and it's going into the lake and everything. There's a fine line here where we can all really truthfully get along. You had your shot.
Did I get a second shot?
Because I love you dearly, go ahead.
I strongly urge this board to listen to your and the experts that you employ, like Mr. Gustowski and Ms. Kitchen.
Yeah.
Because they're not emotional. They're based on facts.
Yeah. They don't live here. They have a job to do. They work for us, work with us. They don't live here, so.
And they have expertise beyond, so that they have a broader view.
Yeah.
And not just a myopic view of this town. But I strongly urge you to listen to them when we vote.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. And like I said at the vote the other night. After we work it out, some people may be not so happy. Some people, you know. Maybe delighted. We're still all a community where we need to work together. Okay, so. I appreciate that. No executive session tonight, so at this time, I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Right?
And it is 8:56.
Don't forget me to sign.
Yeah.
That's